Next on Broadway Profiles, remembering Nick Cordero, a Broadway star's life cut short by COVID. You'll hear from some of his closest friends, both on stage and off. Plus, the entire cast of Hamilton is here to talk about the film's release, and I'll go one-on-one with Daveed Diggs about what it was like for him to step into the role of Thomas Jefferson. And you'll get up close and personal with one of the amazing dancers in the Hamilton ensemble. I'm Tamsen Fadal, and this is Broadway Profiles, presented by Broadway.com. Welcome to Broadway Profiles. I'm your host, Tamsen Fadal. The theater community is still reeling from the death of Nick Cordero. Still reeling, but not just grieving, instead celebrating his gifts and the heart he brought to Broadway. At just 41 years old, Cordero lost his life in July after a months-long battle with COVID-19. He had no underlying medical conditions. He leaves behind his wife and a young son. In the 90-plus days he was hospitalized, Nick's wife, Amanda Klutz, led fans and supporters in a series of sing-alongs on Instagram. And now she's talking about how she's been coping with this unimaginable grief.
Nick left this earth with people around him that he loved, listening to music. I don't think he would have wanted anything else. So I think we gave him a good send-off, and I'll miss him every day of my life, that's for sure.
You know, some days are better than others. Sometimes it just hits you in the weirdest times and the weirdest moments, and then sometimes you're totally okay. Sometimes you're laughing and you feel bad for laughing because you're like, why, I shouldn't be laughing right now. And then sometimes you are in tears and you're like, you know what, Nick would want me to be crying right now.
Nick Cordero really made a name for himself in Bullets Over Broadway, where he earned his first Tony nomination. But this business, as you know, is about a whole lot more than awards. Bobby Conte Thornton burst onto the Broadway scene in 2016 when he starred in A Bronx Tale. That's the musical based on the one-man show and movie by Chaz Palminteri. And that's where both of these men really got to see how special of a guy Nick Cordero really was.
This is sort of my first real friend that I've ever had pass. I've had family members. But this is someone who came into my life after I moved to the city and just left far before he should have. So it's processing in a way I've never perhaps had to before. And you're slowly able to start reminiscing in ways that are positive, that are not just sort of that are not solely mournful, I'd say.
In particular, is there anything about him that you will, a life lesson perhaps that you learned, whether it be about theater or just personal, that he showed you and may not have even known that he showed you or taught you?
I think it's one and the same. His whole mindset was, you can't be a great actor or have any semblance of playing a person outside of yourself if you don't live a fully fledged life and if you don't become a decent person. That's the only sort of way to understand empathy, which is all we need at the end of the day. And he was the embodiment of that. He was an extraordinary actor, but he was an extraordinary human being, and that's why you see the bombardment of love that surrounded him and Amanda and Elvis in this time. It's a testament to who he was as a human being.
But can I just get your thoughts? I know that this is hitting you hard.
Yeah, there wasn't a person that said a bad thing about him, you know? He cared about his wife, he cared about his son. You know, I was in the hospital doing my yearly checkup, and I'm walking out, and all of a sudden I hear somebody call my name a year ago, and I turn around and it's Nick and Amanda and their newborn baby leaving the hospital. And I said, Nick, what's going on? He goes, oh, we just had a baby, we're taking him home for the first time. I said, how are you getting home? He goes, oh, we're gonna call an Uber. I said, forget the Uber, come with me. So I put him in my car and I drove them home, and he was saying, I can't wait to tell my son when he's older that his first ride in a car was with Chaz Palminteri. And we were laughing, and I was so happy for them. An amazing, amazing human being. One of the great people I've ever met.
The death of Nick Cordero highlights why Broadway and so many theaters across the country remain closed. The shutdown has been extended until at least January 3rd. All theaters abruptly closed in mid-March. An exact date for reopening our shows has not been announced. Theater producers and labor unions are discussing the safest ways to get the industry back up and running once New York City enters phase 5 of the reopening process. Of course, the other huge Broadway story right now is Hamilton. The game-changing musical opened 5 years ago this month on Broadway, and now Hamilton is still dominant on streaming services and social media. The film on Disney Plus reaching audiences who might have never seen the musical. Broadway.com's editor-in-chief Paul Wontorek spoke to all the stars about Hamilton.
What's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton. My name is Alexander Hamilton.
Is it fair to say that with closed captioning, I can also consider this sing-along Hamilton? Are you encouraging people to, like, you know, partake in it?
However you want to watch this movie, you watch this movie.
Yeah,
this is about you.
This is about you, and it is about the show coming to meet us where we are in a time when we can't yet gather, in a time when these incredible, you know, we've seen the collective power of the theater community meeting in this moment, and now we have this moment, and I'm thrilled we are able to provide it. It gives the world so much more access to not a movie adaptation, but actually the thing I spent 6 years writing. And that's so rare and so special.
The fact that more people will see this on July 3rd and July 4th, probably than have seen the show live, is the power of this medium.
How does it feel to know that, you know, someone with a credit card and $6.99 a month can watch you guys do Hamilton?
That exclusive ticket that, you know, we were so famous for being was actually not something that we were proud of. We really believe very strongly that theater should be accessible.
And here's the pièce de résistance. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened.
Leslie, what does it mean for you, especially in this moment that the whole world is going through with protests, statues toppling? I think people really need to see this story told this way.
I will speak for myself. I look at it and I still believe in it as much. I'll tell you why. There's a song early in the show. The song is called The Story of Tonight. 4 men of color singing about friendship and brotherhood. Singing about friendship and brotherhood. And I'd never seen anything like it in my life. The image changed my life. That has value still in 2020.
So what did I miss? What did I miss?
David, actually, when I interviewed you down at the off-Broadway opening, I remember you telling me that it was so great to be able to tell this story, to have this group of actors tell this story, and it feels like now is just more than ever, right?
There was a moment when we were on Broadway where like Black Lives Matter protests started popping up, and we were, you know, a lot of us in the community were really wrapped up in that and really sort of nervous about the value placed on our lives just getting to the theater, right? These are the kinds of parts of being Black that don't become part of the mainstream conversation at all. For now, we are seeing some action towards that. I think the value of Hamilton coming out right now is it allows the conversation to continue for a lot more people than just the folks who could get in the door.
What is it like to witness what we were all going crazy for? I mean, I know you've seen the show, but to see what the magic that you guys had, what is it like? What's it like for you, Chris?
It's spectacular. Like everybody in this company is so special and so specific. And it's just like, that's the part that I marvel at. And I can't, like, I go to sleep thinking about it and I wake up thinking about it. It's like, how in the world did we collect this group of people in this moment to do this thing for relatively a long period of time? And here you are seeing it at the very end of it. And it's the sharpest thing I've ever seen lay my eyes on.
That's right, Hercules, Mulligan!
What was it like to know that you were performing for these cameras?
For me, I really wanted to remind myself, like, don't try to make anything cuter, cooler, or sexier. Just do the damn thing. Like, we've been doing it for a while. These are people that I love. We were so intertwined that it's like, just trust all of that. Just trust it. Don't try to make it anything. Don't try to do anything else with it. For me, that was my personal journey. Just be like, the thing works.
What is it like for you to watch it?
I was just so proud and happy for everyone because those performances that I got to witness from, you know, up and like behind on stage and like see the backs of people's heads and like kind of get a sense of like what was going on there. Like I could feel that energetically, but to be able to get the best seat in the house at every single angle, at every single moment is such a gift.
Back when the original cast of Hamilton was still on Broadway, I had the chance to sit down with Daveed Diggs, who plays Lafayette and Jefferson. Take a look back.
Looking at the rolling fields, I can't believe that we are free.
Talk about the difficulty or the trickiness maybe of playing Thomas Jefferson.
It's complicated for a black person to play Thomas Jefferson. Sure. The way that he is attached to the legacy of slavery is not something to be overlooked. And the way that we need to make him effective in this show is by making him very charismatic. Jefferson provides an interesting energy. That character allows me to bring so much of my own personal history of my family and all of these things that I use to develop that character. You sort of wonder what Thomas Jefferson would feel about being portrayed by the descendants of people he enslaved, and like specifically using a lot of things that to me feel culturally very black.
If you could sit down and have a drink with him, what would you ask him if there were one question you would have to ask him?
I think I would just have to ask him to justify his practices to me. And for me, the way that I've been developing that character is from a position of privilege. The only way that you can have that kind of hypocrisy and be all right with it and have it sit so easily on you is if you've been given everything your whole life. Sure. And therefore never had to sort of deal with. Right. Thomas Jefferson, as I play him, is the most entitled person anybody's ever met.
We figured out a way to survive in the shadows. How about we leave this hell behind?
You can also catch Daveed on TV right now in the TNT series Snowpiercer. The show just wrapped its first season, reaching more than 30 million viewers. And there will definitely be a second season. In fact, it's almost entirely in the can, with only a couple of episodes left to be filmed. In addition to Daveed Diggs, the show stars Jennifer Connelly and Daveed's fellow Tony Award winner, Lena Hall.
I think people will relate a lot to everyone will relate to a character in the show, whether you know, no matter what your circumstance, you are represented on this show, which I think is really cool.
Up next, we're in the pit with Rob McClure. I'll talk to the Broadway star about Conductor Cam, his homemade spoof on the life of theater conductors. I'm Tamsen Fadal, and you're watching Broadway Profiles. Right now, Rob McClure should be starring in Mrs. Doubtfire the musical on Broadway. The new musical began previews March 9th. Broadway closed 3 days later. So instead of performing for sold-out crowds, Rob is riding out the pandemic at home with his wife and little girl. But he's still keeping plenty busy and keeping his fans very entertained. Take a look.
You've been staying occupied in quarantine, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm down in Philadelphia with my wife and my 19-month-old daughter. So she keeps me very busy.
Did I even make a sound? Did I even make a sound? It's like I never made a sound. Did I ever make a sound?
You're also keeping people entertained at the same time. Talk about Conductor Cam.
Oh, it's so funny. I've been doing this for 20 years now, and there's the conductor monitor, which is basically when there's a conductor in the orchestra pit, we can't necessarily look down at the conductor to get our cues. So often there'll be TV monitors mounted on the balcony with a little camera that we can watch the conductor. And conductors are inherently eccentric. There's something really cool about what they do. So I jokingly made a couple of like mockumentary style conductor cams referencing things I love that conductors do. It was basically for 5 or 6 friends that I know love it as much as I do.
Right.
And the next thing I know, they've got millions of people viewing them. And then this last episode that I did, frivolous comedy felt kind of, you know, like something that I could pivot the platform to something more important. So we started the Pass the Baton campaign, and I gave the baton to this incredible woman named Kalina Bavel, who is an amazing Black female poet, conductor of the Memphis Youth Symphony, and we partnered on one with a really powerful message about amplification. She's a powerful force who is just one of the millions of artists who don't get the recognition they deserve, and the reason is one that we have to work on.
The U.S. and South Korea reported their first cases of COVID-19 on the same day so many months ago. And now as the U.S. continues to struggle with rising cases, South Korea is returning to normal in some ways, including bringing back live theater. Broadway.com correspondent CHARLENE Cooper is here to show us how they're doing it.
Thanks, Tamsen. Andy Senor Jr. is a total stage vet. He has a long-standing history with the musical Rent, playing Angel on Broadway and in London. He's also directed many productions of Jonathan Larson's modern classic. The Barcelona-based artist found himself deep in production for a staging in Seoul, South Korea, when COVID-19 changed the world.
I'm the only person of my community, of the theater and the Broadway community, that I knew was working and putting up a show. And then also to be putting up a show like Rent at that, which deals with the virus, was fascinating.
How do you write a song when the chords sound wrong, though they once sounded right and red?
How do you put on a show in a responsible way? Because Rent is one of those productions where people are close, they're taking up space in close proximities, they're singing in each other's faces. So how do you responsibly put on a show like that?
It starts at home. It starts at people making sure that they're not going out and they're not doing anything that is unnecessary. Then coming into the rehearsal space, as soon as you walk into the building, there's a camera that's taking your temperature. There, you're signing in, you're putting in your temperature, you're cleaning your hands, you're changing your shoes. An hour before, the staff is, they sanitize all the props in the set. And then you're in the rehearsal studio and you know, rehearse Rent as usual with the, you know, closeness, the touching, making out, all of that, that's all there. And then you go home and you just make sure that you're living responsibly.
Coming up on this edition of Broadway Profiles, something great for Hamilton fans. We're going to tell you why one of the powerhouse members of the ensemble has just gotta dance. I'm Tamsen Fadal, and this is Broadway Profiles. We'll be right back. We've already heard from so many great stars of Hamilton, but some of the unsung heroes of the musical are the ensemble. We're talking about the dancers. With all the furniture lifting, the tables and the chairs, Carly Bettiall says she got in the best shape of her life during Hamilton. Here she is to tell us why she's just gotta dance.
Hi, my name is Carly Bettiall. I was a pageant girl. And so I started pageants, and the directors of this one pageant that I did was like, you know, you got to get her into musical theater, into that world, said to my parents. And so my mother got me an agent in New York City when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and we started taking the Amtrak train down to New York City all the time, and I would audition for things. My first Broadway show was Hamilton. I was lucky enough to book the lab workshop that they did for 4 weeks back in 2014. And so I was with it for that, and then we did Off-Broadway at the Public Theater, and then I made my Broadway debut in 2015 with that show. I really got lucky with that. I'm so grateful that I was a part of that. It's an honor to be a part of the community. I mean, let's be honest, there's a small percentage of people that can make it in this business, and I am so grateful to be a part of that.
I'm Tamsen Fadal, and this is Broadway Profiles. Some more must-see TV for you Hamilton superfans out there. The Freestyle Love Supreme documentary, it's now streaming on Hulu.
It's a group of friends saying, I can't wait to hear what you're gonna say next.
The group was created by Lin-Manuel, Miranda, and friends. It's a hilarious infusion of hip-hop, improv, and comedy. And this documentary is a 15-year retrospective from the group's beginnings and its journey to Broadway. Check out this Broadway Profiles exclusive performance from two of the group's members, Jelly Donut and Rain of Fire.
Comedy, yes, yes, yes. That's the thing that makes you all laugh. They used to say that comedy was a gas. Chris Tucker make me fall on my buttocks. Whether it's stand-up, improv, or just a rapping. Comedy's the best thing that ever happens. It brings us all together because we're laughing from the gut. That's why they call me Jelly Donut.
I said comedy, it's hilarious to you and me. I said ha ha ha, ho ho ho. I'm not ready for Christmas, yo, but I'm just trying to keep this flow. So let's all have some comedy, yo.
And that's going to do it for us. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. I'm Tamsen Fadal, and this is Broadway Profiles presented by Broadway.com.